Hello and welcome to Mount Rushmore. Usually in this spot, there's an introduction of a new topic that we're going to discuss. But let me replay the tail end of the last episode of Mount Rushmore. Flashback.
Let's double or nothing. This is a 2-round game. All right, so tune in next week.
We need a nerd.
So we're gonna do
or a geek or maybe a dork.
So we're doing dorks next week.
Dorks next week.
Hey,
Fictional dorks. We got our fictional cool people.
we can't do real dorks because there'd be three choices right here in this room.
Okay, so maybe in this these bookends of Mount Rushmore podcast, we're going to both entertain what it is to be cool and what it is to be a dork. So we'll see you in the next episode where we're going to leave you hanging on this cliff to find out who got more points in this. Cool
Okay, so you heard from what I said and we said at the end of the last episode of Mount Rushmore podcast, in which we talked about fictional cool guys that we are going to talk about this episode, fictional dorks, fictitious dorks, dorky nerd dorks. Is there a difference between dorks and nerds? Are we talking about dorks?
Huge difference.
Oh yeah, giant. Sure, yeah. I mean, you can be a nerd and still even be cool, as we discussed
Yeah.
With Chris Knight.
In the previous episode. You cannot be a dork and cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we also discussed that there might be kind of two sides to that same coin, and that they are the yin and yang, and they need each other. So maybe somebody's the lemon or the coconut or the chocolate or the peanut butter. So Richard,
You said Lyman.
I did.
Did you mean like from Garfield?
Or did you mean like Frankie Lyman?
Do you remember there was the? I kind of started with Lyman because there was a lemon lime. Never mind.
No, continue. Please continue.
There was a Sprite campaign.
Sure,
for a
of
while
course.
that had a lemon
Yeah.
and a lime smashed
I
together.
just like that the three of us each had our own take on what Lyman could possibly be, and mine was the dorky, owner of Odie before it went to John Arbuckle.
And mine was a 50s pop singer who wound up becoming a drug addict, I think murderer. Yeah. And yours was just fruit.
Mine was just some dumb commercial because I'm dumb. So Richard, why don't you start us off? You come out swinging with your first dork.
Well, I'm not going to be swinging my dork, Jeff.
God bless us all.
I'm glad it's not just his first one and his second one, because then you got to get that looked at.
Yeah, if you got multiple dorks, you should go see a proctologist. My first pick is from a movie that we discussed last week. It is Eugene from Greece,
Oh wow.
Oh,
who really only has like 2 lines in the whole movie.
yeah.
And they're both when he's throwing a pie at Sid Caesar's face and manages to like nail him perfectly.
You should go out for the baseball team.
He should have. Better than Danny Zuko doing it. I could imagine that.
Was he the first nerd named Eugene? Do you think?
Might have been up there.
Yeah.
I mainly, in as much as I want to talk about the character, I kind of want to talk about the person who plays him, Eddie Deason.
Eddie Deason.
Who I think when you think of a nerdy character in your mind,
It's Eddie Deason.
that's the face that you think of.
Yeah.
I mean, he did a lot of the Fred Olen Ray movies. He's always the nerd in those kind of cult so bad they're good movies.
1941.
Might have been him. Was he in
Yeah.
1941? I think he was. Yeah.
Nerdy character.
Yeah, and did a lot of voice work. He did, was it Mandrake, the antagonist to Dexter in Dexter's Laboratory.
wow.
So has done a lot of voice work. And someone who's just, you think about it, he's just made a career out of
Yeah.
just being Eugene
Yeah.
over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And seems like kind of to be generous, a lovable dork in real life.
Yeah.
He's Eugene the same way that Bowser will always be Bowser from Sha-Na-Na.
Yeah.
In this, he will always forever be that greaser guy. In no matter, like, he's not going to ever be cast in something else.
Before Grease, he did I Want to Hold Your Hand, and
He's a giant Beatles nerd.
Yeah, and in real life, he writes for Mental Floss. And
Right.
He writes a lot of articles about the Beatles.
Yeah, he is he's been featured in documentaries as being one of the biggest Beatle fans in the world, and knower of Beatles trivia. At one point on his personal website, he would post ridiculously difficult Beatles questions and offer someone $100 if they could answer it. And apparently no one ever did.
Wow.
And he's like a total trivia guy. He like baseball and all kinds of random pop culture.
Is he the counter to one thing we discussed was so listeners go to the show notes for last week's episode where we discussed fictional cool guys, but the fictional cool guy who's counter to Eugene in Greece is who?
That'd be Danny Zuko.
That'd be Danny Zuko. Does Eugene have a journey, or is he just he's
just kind of background nerd?
Yeah, background nerd.
And they kind of like wind up harassing him a little bit, kind of playfully in the hallway in one scene.
Yeah.
Hey, Eugene, and they kind of muss up his hair
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And mainly he's just in the background to kind of give nerdy reactions and just sort of be a dork.
Yeah.
And he's one of the first like dork characters I could think of. And again, Eddie Deason is just dork personified.
Yeah. Okay, Michael, what is your first choice?
You mentioned Eugene's, and I'm going to talk about Eugene Levy as
Nice.
Gerry Fleck. Gerry Fleck.
Incredible.
Gerry Fleck from Best in Show, the Christopher Guest movie about dogs and dog shows. And he plays a character who is so dorky and is so inept. I really had to like dig down into, you had to do that like kind of Venn diagram thing of like, okay, what is a nerd?
Yeah.
What is a geek? What is a dork? And be like, okay, focus on a dork. Focus on someone who is kind of inept socially, who doesn't really know that he's out of place or kind of does, or is just kind of like dealing with that ineptness, dealing with being not necessarily super bright. Like he's not like a super nerd, but he's not like really into one thing. He's like, he kind of found his way into being married to this woman.
Yeah.
And
Who slept with everybody on the planet.
Right.
and he is the exact opposite of all of the other men that, throughout the movie, they meet all these other boyfriends of hers, and they're all like these obnoxious, bigger, bald men who are kind of aggressive, and he's this meek, literally two left-footed.
Literally two left-footed.
Literally two left-footed. That's one of the best parts in the movie. They're just sitting there and they pan down to his feet, and he's wearing these dumb loafers. And he, Eugene Levy plays this character so well of being so beaten up.
Yeah.
By like he's just in a situation in life where he's going to this dog show because that's what his wife and him are into, and he doesn't really know how to walk the dog. And they get to the hotel and they don't have any money, and like he tries to put on a credit card, and the credit card's maxed out, so they're living it. So they're staying in the closet,
Right.
But he has like this great redemptive quality at the end where Cookie, his wife, her knee goes out. And he has to walk their dog Winky.
I'm not exactly sure how her knee. I mean, it's the like most over the top lame like knee going out thing ever.
Her knee goes akimbo and she trips over something.
It's just such a Catherine O'Hara moment, which is wobbling and falling.
Who did that? Did someone put that there? Who did that? And then he has to step up in a way that he's never in his life. He's always been this seemingly beaten down, hapless dork.
Yeah.
And then he triumphs, and then the smile on his face at the end is just like it's pure bliss, and you can't believe it. And like at the end of the movie, they cut back and he's being cuckolded again, kind of humiliated.
Right,
back to normal.
Right, back to life.
One of my favorite moments is an interaction between him and John Michael Higgins, where he says something like, "You must be proud, Mary."
Right.
Stefan is wearing, they're at like their meet and greet. Stefan is wearing like a name badge that says Mary because he's like he's the gay dog walker.
Is Stefan from SNL named after Stefan?
Oh, maybe.
Well, it is a confrontation between the person with the most confidence and the least confidence.
They're looking at like his black leather pants with all this ridiculous red thread.
Yeah.
He's like, it took me like 12 hours to do it. And he's like, you must be proud, Mary. Yeah. And he's so proud of himself. Self-proud, but it's just like, it's great.
And John Michael Higgins' response is just so wonderful because he doesn't demean him. He says, "Who are you all of a sudden?" It's the most amazingly warm and wonderful embrace to somebody who just made a joke. So.
Whenever we're packing for like a trip or anything, I always think of his line of like, "And how many kimonos do you need?"
Yeah, totally.
Right.
We're going to be here for like a day and a night. So it's like, 3.
That's a great choice.
A couple of things about this pick, and I love this pick. One, I was watching some SCTV the other day, and it was amazing to me how Eugene Levy would often play the cool guy
Yeah.
in a lot of the skits.
Yeah.
you know, a lot of times he would play like Bobby Bittman.
Yeah.
Was that him? But didn't he play Bobby Bittman?
On the Sammy Maudlin show.
The Sammy Maudlin show. Or was he Sammy Maudlin? I can't remember.
I think Flaherty was Sammy Maudlin.
Yeah, and he's like Bobby Bittman.
Yeah.
But a lot of times he would play like
as a comic in all seriousness.
all seriousness books. He would wind up a lot of the times playing like the cool, like if they need a leading man type. A lot of times he would do that role. But then he could also do like Earl Camembert.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the ultimate, by the way, I did not put him on, but in hindsight would have been an incredible choice here. But then just at some point in his career, he just became like, the schlep in all these like, you know, Christopher
Guest movies.
Yeah, Christopher Guest movies. And so I just think it's remarkable that he was able to kind of pull that off. And I just...
Yeah, he did do a couple things where he would be a singer like Gino Vanelli, or he would be the handsome leading guy.
He was in a weird buddy cop movie too before this in like the mid 80s.
With John Candy?
Oh, I
Armed
know.
and Dangerous?
Yes.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Or he's kind of like the cool guy. And John Candy's the dork.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, what's neat about this is we do get to put a finer point on our definition. Geeks maybe have an awareness and can actually leverage the currency of coolness at some point. Dorks will always let that fall through their hands. They will never, if they were ever accidentally to become cool, like when the dog show, a day later they're going to blow it somehow and be back down a peg.
The way I've always like looked at the difference between like nerds, geeks, and dorks is nerds are just hyper intelligent people, and there can be a lot of other attributes that are kind of put on them. Yeah. Like in Revenge of the Nerds, the main characters are like crazy overconfident. Yeah. But they're like just super smart, but also kind of out there. Geeks tend to be hyper focused on one particular thing, whether it's like Star Wars or always Star Wars, or probably most likely Star Wars, Star Trek as well. And then dorks tend to be like fall into like this third category of just being so like clueless and dopey, and you're just like, oh man, look at this dork.
Yeah. This dork, yeah.
All right, Richard, what's your second?
My second choice is, and this may blow up just based on what you said. I don't necessarily agree with all your choices, by the way, but
I will say this: like looking this up and thinking about this, I'm okay with whatever,
right?
Because it is a Venn diagram, and things do cross over, and there are attributes amongst like the nerdy, geeky, dorky realm that are like sometimes too hard to peg down, and sometimes if you're being too much of an a-hole about it, then you're just an a-hole.
Then you're the dork. You're the dork.
Then you're like the geek who's like obsessed with oh, well, that guy's not actually a dork. He's a nerd, so I hate you now. So
don't be that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you're not persecuted. You're an asshole.
Right. So my second choice is Brian from The Breakfast Club, played by Anthony Michael Hall.
Oh my gosh, this was an amazing. Okay, sorry.
No, go ahead. Because I
Jeff
knew
Jeff is so happy. Oh my god, I gotta shut up.
No, I gotta shut up.
I chose him because he was like the archetypical sort of like high school 80s nerd. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I chose him because he's Anthony Michael Hall in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I had to choose an Anthony Michael Hall character from the 80s. I felt like it just, you couldn't not do it.
And you couldn't choose him from 16 Candles when he was known as the geek.
And also, also kind of rapey in that movie too.
Yeah, it's not cool.
And then Weird Science, he's kind of got the cool guy. He turns into a cool guy by the end.
Maybe he's got all three. In Weird Science, he's a nerd. In 16 Candles, he's a geek. And maybe here's a dork.
Triple crown. He hit the triple crown.
Nailed it.
Okay.
And then he played in Johnny Be Good.
A jock.
The jock.
See, and Edward Scissorhands, the jock.
Yeah.
That's what was my betrayal at the hands of Anthony Michael Hall. Because you were the Exodus leading all the geeks and nerds. Like in Weird Science, he as Gerry, he was just like one of the nerdiest nerds there. And it was this guy who I could kind of relate to. And then he fucking turned into this dumb shit.
He puts on 30 pounds of muscle and grows 4 inches.
Weird. Does a bunch of steroids and
He pulled a Piscopo. Remember when
he did,
was like funny, and he did impersonations.
Did Sinatra and stuff,
Sinatra, I think he always had a little bit of a swagger, but he was never cool, He was
anything. Like Eddie Murphy's best friend.
Yeah.
That was his professional job.
Boom. He, for some reason, I think, like I read somewhere, I think he got a nose job or something. He started having to do steroid for some surgery.
Right.
And so he started taking steroid and being buff. Like, what the hell?
Like he turned into Vince McMahon, basically.
That's also like nerds, geeks, dorks. They're often one thing, funny. They often have a outlook on life that's comedic, basically as a survival technique because they're getting pounded all the time. So when the funny nerd becomes the jock, come on.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's like when Dylan went electric. You're betraying your Judas. You betraying your flock. Okay.
I don't know how to follow that up.
Yeah, in Breakfast
Sorry,
Club.
I'll shut up.
What did he do anything in particular as the character?
I think the part of it is because in a lot of these roles we're talking about, the kind of dork character, geek character, nerd, whatever, is just kind of shown, and sometimes they get beat up or sometimes people make fun of them, but they're just kind of this character who just, a lot of times it's like, well, I don't care what other people think about me. I'm kind of focused on my one thing. And it kind of showed like, no, these are actual people and they get upset and then things bother them. And sometimes they get mad because there's too much pressure on them. And sometimes they bring a flare gun to school.
Yeah.
So, and you said most of the time these characters are very funny.
Yeah.
Brian's character is not funny. He just doesn't, he's a character who just doesn't get anything about what's going on around him until he starts kind of loosen up, once he gets stoned, basically. Mm-hmm. But I think that's partially why I picked this character, because it's a little bit of, it was part of the genius of the movie, The Breakfast Club, right? Mm-hmm. It kind of just showed that these, what could have been just real stock stereotype characters were actually like real people who had real emotions, who had motivations for why they did things, and things affected them. Yeah. So it wasn't just kind of the 16 Candles, let's make fun of him because he's a geek and he's the geek, and it's just sort of like a comedic foil.
In a high school rom-com, the established archetypes served a foundational role that then the plot took those archetypes and made something fun happen.
Right.
This just stuck them all in a room and said, there's not going to be any plot. We're just going to skewer these archetypes and determine that they're all bogus. And they're all just people.
I do appreciate the fact that at the end of the movie, of the 5 characters, 4 of the 5 have paired off. Mm-hmm. Brian is stuck without a girlfriend still. Yeah.
Michael, what's your second?
My second is Seymour Krelbourn from Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, that's so good.
I just saw a high
Speaking
school
of
production.
SCTV.
I just saw a high school production of this on Friday night. Yeah,
that's wild.
Really? Yeah, pretty awesome.
How the kid playing the Seymour character,
job. Rivaling Rick Moranis, who Moranis himself has been cultivating that identity his entire career. But this kid does such a great job. And what was funny and what made him a dork is he didn't even have the audacity to dream big. Like he and Audrey, as part of the banality of their dreams of going somewhere green.
Yeah, just getting off a Skid Row.
Getting out of Skid Row. They ask him what he would love to do, like, oh my gosh, his Faustian bargain is that he will give lectures at gardening clubs and things. He doesn't want a jet plane. He doesn't want to do all this amazing stuff. He's a schlep who, even when he dreams big, he
does not dream big at all.
Schleppy.
He was just this character that is clumsy. He's not bright. He has this dead end job that is just literally killing him. It's selling almost dead flowers at times in the worst part of town, and just that his only speck of light is that possible future with this woman that is just never gonna get with him, because she's in this abusive relationship with the dentist character.
They're all damaged goods. Yeah, everybody.
But then he can never work up the audacity to ask her out. And then when it does, it kind of goes wrong, and she's already with someone else. And, it takes an alien plant from outer space to kind of break the mold. And this was one of my favorite movies growing up. And I just loved all the performances from him and Steve Martin, and the big Audrey plant itself was just wild. But he's another one that kind of actually does change by the end. He does take on more of a hero role, even though he's kind of an awful person through half of it. Where he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to solve his problem other than by chopping up people and feeding it to this plant.
The plant doesn't kill the bad guy. He kills the bad. Well, the bad guy kills himself through nitrous overdose. Is that right? I forget. But he doesn't stop him, so he's
Yeah,
therefore
something like
Yeah,
tacit.
no, doesn't he wind up killing the Steve Martin character?
In the musical, he dies inadvertently because he has some kind of, or maybe it's the high school version.
He overdoes on nitrous.
Maybe you switch to a really weird high school
think
play.
so.
I don't know. But there's like a big difference between like the musical and then the movie
The ending
version.
is
The ending's completely different, right?
But he is a proto dork.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he is perfectly manipulated by this plant. And he is also aspiring to, he has what a lot of dorks do, including myself, which is somewhat of kind of a knight in shining armor complex. And then he wants to rescue this fallen woman who is Audrey,
Yeah.
who was formerly a waitress in a tawdry nightclub where she didn't wear classy clothes like the one she wears in the show. Anybody who can be bossed around by a plant, it's a dork.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I had a boss who was a fern for a while, but that's a different story.
We are halfway. So in a way, this is kind of us going into the fourth quarter because this is a special two-parter. The last episode of the Mount Rushmore podcast, we dealt with iconic cool guys. And this episode, we're dealing with iconic dorks. So we're seeing that sometimes they're two sides of the same coin. And last time we talked about how cool it was that you, the listener, are able to go onto the Facebook and the Instagram and the Netflix. Are we on Netflix?
We got a deal coming out.
We got a
soon.
deal coming out.
Yeah.
Stranger Things
for it.
season 2.
All we can do is chill.
All
We cannot
do is chill.
Netflix.
There's no Netflix, just chill. We have to chill until our Netflix gets picked up. But you can join us in the dialogue by going on
I
Facebook.
do hope they read that email that I sent them.
It'd be so nice. Dear Netflix.
complaining about the episode that wouldn't play and
Yeah.
and also included P.S. Please pick us up on it.
Also, please pick us up.
Crappy podcast.
Well, you know what? Just put us on the DVDs. I know nobody gets those anymore. We'll be the DVDs. You know what I usually say here? I say download, rate, and review our podcasts that are out on iTunes. It really would help us identify a broader audience if you let people know what you like or what you don't like about this podcast. So we are back. Who's next? Richard.
This would be me.
Richard.
And my third choice is William Miller from Almost Famous.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Kind of the music dork. So he is in the movie basically a doppelganger for, or a stand-in, I guess, for Cameron Crowe himself, who was a teen hotshot music writer for Rolling Stone magazine. So it's kind of loosely based on Cameron Crowe's life. And I think what's interesting about this character in the movie is that his lack of coolness sort of winds up shading the rest of the movie and his interactions with the rock stars that he's around, the guys from Stillwater and the Band-Aid groupies that he's around. For the big start of the movie, when his big sister, played by Zooey Deschanel, winds up taking off, she gives him all of her music and says, "One day you'll be cool." So it's like right away we have established
That he's not cool.
he is not cool.
Yeah.
But the music is going to, music becomes this outlet and this bridge for him to try to find some sort of inner coolness or something within him. But then he winds up spending most of the movie trying to kind of, latch on to whatever makes rock stars cool, whatever makes the people who are around them cool. And it kind of compromises because he's sent there to write the article about this band Stillwater. And he winds up basically becoming too friendly with him and can't write the article the way it should be written because he's kind of buying into the cool factor.
It was like Lester Bangs kind of cautioning him on
Yeah,
this.
Lester Bang tells him if you want to be friends with him, write something honest.
Yeah.
And there's a line that he has in there. He said, even when I was being cool with them, I always knew that I wasn't cool.
Yeah.
So it's like that sort of, you take a dork and you put him into these really cool, God, wouldn't it be great if you were in the 70s and you got to tour with all the, go around with a, big rock band and be with them while they're partying and with all the groupies. But deep down inside, he's still not cool.
Yeah.
And it takes him sort of recognizing that and kind of being okay with that allows him to actually write the story the right way and be able to find kind of his inner voice.
As adults, you often do that thing where you think, if I could travel back in time and talk to my younger, uncool self, and teach him how to be cool, then you'd be cool back then. But then, in your teenage years, you're often outcast and you're often kind of a dork and you're often you would, even if you had this life lesson from yourself, you would still be unable to process it because you're still a dork.
Yeah.
Or be able to act on it correctly.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is that you would tell yourself, you really should act like this and do this.
But
You wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
You'd be acting, pretending that you're doing it. In a lot of ways, that's what William is doing in the movie. He's pretending a lot of ways to kind of have the pose of being cool or trying to get the cool that's around him. And eventually that's not who he is.
Yeah. It does seem like a lot of these stories about dorks or cool guys are set in some kind of institution, and sometimes one within one. If we think of Dazed and Confused, it was baseball team within high school.
Right.
And William is going into rock and roll music. Gerry Fleck was in this dog show. These people are trying to succeed in the eyes of this institution when individualization is really the ultimate goal. And when you can go into that world where you're comfortable being yourself and not just trying to be the cog that fits into this giant machinery, that's when your identity becomes singular and people might look up to because you're doing something interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, you're a 14-year-old writer for Rolling Stone.
I mean, my
How is
God,
that
yeah,
not cool?
That's not the coolest thing ever. But it's interesting to me that he doesn't. At the end of the movie, it's not like he goes on this journey and becomes cool. It's almost like the opposite. He has to go on this journey to realize who he is, and if that person's not cool, quote air quotes, that's fine.
Yeah, that's a neat choice because it also puts out that thing of what we've talked about. Some individuals who escort us through the trials and identity crises of adolescence, but here music is that escort.
Yeah, it's not a person. It's not his mom. It's music.
Uh-huh.
And I think for us, I mean, we're all music, as evidenced by our 90-minute episodes on music anytime we do it.
Never quite gotten that long, but
pretty close. Felt like it. Maybe felt like it a few times.
well, once we edited out 30 minutes of us just singing.
Playing guitar.
Yeah.
Hand me that guitar over there, Michael, by the way.
Hand me the axe. What is the scene when they're in the plane and they think it's going down?
Oh yeah, they think they're sure the plane's going to crash, and they start singing "Tiny Dancer."
Yeah. So everybody's music is kind of going on there while everybody kind of loses their fucking cool. The rock stars
and everyone and they started admitting all the secrets they got, like one of them's gay or something, and
it is funny that the armor comes off at that moment.
Exactly.
Music is Elton John's the backdrop for it. Michael.
My third choice is Tina Belcher from Bob's Burgers.
Oh, that's funny.
Who's another 13, 14-year-old adolescent.
Right.
Who, what's the word?
Loves butts.
She loves butts. She loves horses. She loves zombies. She loves Jimmy Pesto. She loves 7 other guys with the names that begin with a J. Mm-hmm. She is totally inept.
Yeah.
She is not a nerd in that she's not necessarily super bright, but she is just so hyper-focused on the things that she is involved in, but also at the same time easily manipulated by her sister or by her brother or by her parents. She's also constantly defeated by everything and everyone around her. You know, she's this dork that runs with her arms at her sides. She thrashes around when she sleeps. And reading about her, and an episode came up where like someone suggested that she's autistic, and her dad Bob was just like, no. She's just this dork.
Right.
But even if she was, that wouldn't necessarily preclude her from being a dork as well.
Yeah.
She is so strange.
Do you hear that, autistic listeners? You're not immune from our scorn.
We will come after you.
We treat everybody the same. There can be, autistic nerds and autistic cool people and autistic dorks.
We would be disrespecting you not to make fun of you.
She has like these really strange moments of like overconfidence when the things that she's into come up. Like she is so unembarrassed about like her fan fiction about butts and zombies and reading them in front of the class. But at the same time, she'll just get shot down in every other situation. Yeah. And she's just she's probably my favorite character on Bob's Burgers. Mm-hmm. And just, she's a character that you would think would get overlooked if she was a middle child, but she's not. She's the eldest.
Yeah.
And like her rotten younger sister and her, super obnoxious, her sister is obnoxious
Right.
too. But Jean is just as obnoxious. Like they so overpower her, and even though she's the eldest, she is never ever in a position of power.
Yeah.
Like if the parents go out of town, they have to still find a babysitter for her as well, because they just that even those small victories, she can't win those because she's so untrustworthy and a dork, and she's always going to do the wrong thing, but she's so earnest in the things that she loves and her world. And I just think she's special and great.
We've talked about Napoleon Dynamite before, and that was a movie that had such a surprising success, and then an amazing, in its embrace, it became...
I can't believe I didn't think of him.
I almost became just like hated that movie just because of all the Vote for Pedro shirts, and actually many times I had to parody it in corporate communications projects and things like that.
No.
Yeah, we did so many Vote for Pedro spoofs and things like that.
Are any of these online?
I unfortunately no.
When we do the Hopcast one day,
The Hopcast, yeah.
and it's
Which
just
could be much better than this cost. It's just going to be Jeff's life story.
it's just 12 minutes each episode. And it's just a small story from Jeff Hawkins in his own words.
But I think his unabashed inability to go beyond his dorkosity, and a lot of people, you almost become even more dorky for trying to hide it. I love how she just doesn't try to hide it. It's just this open wound.
She just loves butts.
She loves butts so much. That's what I think is so great about as the time we live in right now, where there's so many ways that people with special interests can connect with each other, that the thing which would have made you unattractive and vulnerable before almost is now the thing that makes you cool and able to connect with so many people.
I think that's a very good and specific point, in that you don't have to be ostracized no matter what you're into. There is a forum for that.
There's a Facebook,
Especially online. Yeah, it's just
you're connected worldwide to everybody, and if 1/100% of the population is into, butts and zombies and horses, you'll find someone else that you can talk to and be into it with.
as someone who's been a part of an RBI baseball message board and flown around the country to meet these guys for the last 15 years. Yeah, I can kind of see that a little bit.
If this wasn't fictional dorks, Richard, you would be 100%.
That's why I made sure we said fictional dorks for this episode. Also fictional cool guys, though, so I could have been in both.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
You bet.
Richard, your last. This is your last for this episode. Might be your last. I don't know. Depends on how it goes.
What's going on here?
It's a threat.
That's
Mount Rushmore of real world threats.
Rushmore of, oh, fuck. My last choice, Willow Rosenberg from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, tell me what her. I have not seen one episode of Buffy.
High five.
Strange thing
What?
is,
That's not something to be proud of.
They came around the comic
I
book
was
store
at
up
the-
in Santa Barbara.
What did?
Oh, all these guys from Buffy.
Oh, they did?
Oh, when I was in college.
Oh, because the show is based on in basically Santa Barbara.
The cast would often, on many weekends a year.
Oh, really?
I'm sure either a bunch of people lived up here, but they would come over to Metro Comics, and it would be a signing with fill in the blank from Buffy
Seth
or from
Green
Angel
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. That's the only connection I have to Buffy, and I know that talking about people that have a unabashed love of something. I know that the Buffy universe is something that some people are just like so gung ho about.
Well, Sarah went to a BuffyCon
There you go.
once and got to meet all the characters and do a meet and greet and hang out and all that shit. So there you go.
She could have just come to Metro Comics up on Anna Kappa.
Apparently she blew it. Since you two have never watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, seriously, guys, God damn it. It's a character. It's kind of the character that kind of, I think, goes through the most change in the show. So when Buffy first transfers into the high school, Willow is like the dork's dork. I mean, just science club, computer club, dress. I think one of the put down someone says is basically says, "Hey, that outfit, did you get it at Sears or something like that?" It's like she's just dorkiest of dorks.
Yeah.
And it really, and then through the course of being part of the Scooby Gang and kind of helping Buffy out, she winds up discovering kind of her inner strength and winds up also discovering that she has the ability to do
Oh, cool.
Which is a good trick to have.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you less afraid. There are no dorky kind of witches or magicians or wizards. Right?
Yeah.
Like
What's the question?
Merlin wasn't a dork or anything, right? Probably.
Hermione Granger from Harry Potter.
Oh, I was thinking about putting her on the list, and I was yelled at by both Vivian and Sarah that she is not a dork.
Oh.
She was very smart, and she's maybe a nerd
She's more of a nerd.
than a dork. Yeah.
She liked school.
Yeah.
She liked learning everything that the other two didn't or were against.
Right. And Willow had a lot of that too. She was even dorkier and nerdier and more into books and research than Buffy's handler Giles, who was the stuffy British kind of know-it-all. So I think her character, and by the end, she winds up going off to college, just discovering she's a lesbian, getting a girlfriend, winds up getting too powerful with her magic and flaying people alive.
Let me write this down. Buffy the Vampire. Okay, I'm gonna check.
Do not do Buffy the Vampire Layer. That's a different. That's a Friends episode, I believe. Ends up abusing her powers and flaying people alive before kind of coming back. It's a giant journey. But she's still this inner dork, even as she grows and matures and becomes like an actual woman.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt like that I needed a female. I felt like we were all going to be dudes here, and we needed to have a little bit female representation for the dorks out there.
Well, there you go.
Right on.
They're rare.
All right, Mikey.
My last
Uncle
one.
Mikey.
Uncle Mikey.
My last one is Milton Wadhams.
Oh, so good.
From Office Space. It is the dorky, again, hapless, just loser character that's been fired 5 years ago that doesn't know he's been fired. He's still getting a paycheck, and all he wants in life is to have some sort of spot, some sort of place, some sort of corner of this office to call home and to do his work, whatever that work may be. I don't think he even knows. I don't even think they know.
Yeah.
And all he cares about is kind of being left alone and being. And then he's, always moved around to the worst part of the office, into the basement. It's discovered that, they bring in the group to kind of reevaluate their budget and reevaluate how they can save money and all their cost savings measures. And they're like, well, this guy's, technically he was fired 5 years ago. So let's just stop paying him and hope that he just goes away.
Yeah, they're like, well, we'll send somebody up to. No, we'll just.
Nope.
Well, the problem will solve it. So stop sending his paychecks, and the problem will solve itself.
And he's just so pathetic as a character, but then also is the one that takes it upon himself and ultimately snaps
to torch the place.
It's that
one of these days going to burn the place down.
They finally take his red stapler, which is the only thing he cares about. And he just wants to get that. He just wants that piece of cake. Yeah, the birthday cake. And there's that great line where he's just like the ratio of people to cake isn't right. He's calculated it, and he can see, and he knows he's not going to get that cake, and then that's it. He's just going to blow the place up. And just there are some characters that don't change, and they just are who they are for forever.
Is he not the first thing that Mike Judge created for Office Space?
He was actually a character before Office Space.
Oh, he was?
Yeah. He was on an SNL short, and he was just called Milton.
Okay.
Right.
I don't think it was Stephen Root that was doing the voice. It was just this weird. It was probably
Mike Judge.
Probably Mike Judge.
For me, that tells an interesting story. If the entire, if we would just say everybody in corporate America is a complete dork, and that was the Milton character was kind of this little touchstone that entire thing sprung from in a way, or he was always this foundational element. Even though a lot of people, when they think of Office Space, they think of like the Michael Bolton character, or those rappers, or the Flickers. What is that? I forget Flair.
Yeah.
The Jennifer Aniston.
Oh yeah, the restaurant.
Do you think it's okay to have the minimum amount of flair? Yeah, no, you're right, because I was going to comment that there's a lot of characters from this movie who could make this list. Frankly, Michael Bolton could have easily been on this list.
Yeah.
Except I think he's too self-aware. And that's like the difference. Like Michael Bolton's a dork, but he's self-aware of his whatever he is.
He knows his lot in life, and Milton's just like this.
Yeah,
impervious, just doesn't understand it.
Yeah,
I harp on institutions, but it seems like that is the wall here that these characters are thrown up against, and they survive when they decide, like that Ron Livingston character, to actually knock down the wall and
Right.
not deal on the institution in its terms, but to do it in his own. Whereas Milton is just looking for any little scrap of territory he can find, and he gets it pulled away from him the whole
every time
Yeah.
throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, that's a funny choice. Okay, am I right that this is it?
This is it.
This is why we play the game. Now, we went double or nothing. We are leveraging this across 2 episodes. These guys have worked really hard to make some really interesting choices. The last episode was about fictitious cool guys, and this episode's fictitious dorks. We're kind of realizing that they often occupy, if not the same person, the same space in storytelling, that they have a symbiotic relationship, that they need each other somewhat. And sometimes you can't have one without the other. That's just reiterating what I just said. So what we did not do at the end of the fictitious cool guys episode is judge it. So I'm going to do that right now. My choices were really hard to make. You know, Richard had a really good kind of theme, and so did Michael. The choices I have are as follows. Fonzie, because he's an archetypal, really kind of influential, cool guy from the fourth quarter of the 20th century, and we still kind of think of him as prototypical. Chris Knight, because I thought it was a really interesting choice, a real deep cut, somebody hadn't even thought about. And it was a shape of things to come, a herald, if you will, of this era that we live in now, in which technology and people who can deal with it in a very savvy way are now the cool people. So geek chic before it was chic. And then we have a split point. McConaughey-Kenzie. Spuds McKenzie, Matthew McConaughey in his Wooderson role combined.
What if they made it?
What if they made it? And the fourth choice is Buddy Love from the comedy The Nutty Professor, as played by Jerry Lewis and then later on Eddie Murphy. So how does that go? Does that mean there's a half-point discrepancy?
It means that the people that are carving this thing have a lot of work to do if they're going to try to they got, okay, do they put McConaughey's head on a dog's body?
Yeah.
Or do they put a dog's body, a dog's head on McConaughey's
I bet
body?
it looks
And
like
how weird would it be if Spuds McKenzie had abs?
That was so
what
weird.
What if you just put McConaughey's head in a Hawaiian shirt?
Just use Sarah Jessica Parker.
Sarah Jessica Parker. There we go.
Barker. Okay. All right. So here are my dork choices. Eddie Deason as the prototypical dork from so many movies. A guy who probably, unlike some of the actors who play dorks, can't take off the role when he goes home. He's still a dork. Gerry Fleck, I thought it was a really great example of a person who embodies that dork that you just, is so different from a nerd in that he's always going to kind of lose in a Sisyphean way. And then I love the idea of the things that try to escort us out of the dorkiest part of our life in high school. And there's people that we talked about in the the cool guy episode, and then there's music. So I really like the William Miller music dork from Almost Famous. And then in that she represents the unabashed, can't stop being a dork even if you try, to the point where it probably makes her completely vulnerable but also impervious to judgment. That is Tina Belcher. So we split that one 2 for 2. All right, guys, how do we feel about
I'm
this
exhausted.
two-parter?
I'm tired.
I need a Fresca, Danny.
Part 3 of this episode is
What? No.
is
no.
a nap.
Oh, okay. Agreed. Agreed.
We're just gonna fall asleep, all 3 of us, and curl up like dogs,
Like Spuds McKenzie.
like Spuds McKenzie.
Kind of drunk.
We are the dorks. You're the cool people. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I've been Jeff.
Richard.
I'm Michael.
God, mark that as delete. Okay. Did I kill something? No. Okay.